Welcome back to OceanBlock 2, Episode 2. The portal gun. Pretty interesting loot that I found. I don't know what this is, so I'll assume it's fairly expensive. Definitely cool to find. Time for an update, I suppose. It's been a hot minute. As you can see, I have a very large stone room. You'd almost think I was playing stone block. You'd be mistaken. I think today I wanted to share some tips and tricks that I figured out. So the goal right now, or the goal earlier, was to get some orange dye for the poppy and the dandelions, right? Why orange dye? Well, for the pneumatic wrench. And this might seem obvious to anybody, but it wasn't to me. Notice the biome in the corner, top right minimap, lukewarm motion. If we look here to an F3, biome, lukewarm motion. I didn't realize this right away, but standing here on the surface, you can see we're in the FTB biome, aquabound expanse. I guess they have mob spawning turned off, which I suppose is kind of a hint from this quest, to build a dark room underwater. Now, what's interesting is you don't actually need a dark room underwater. Once I realized the biome mechanic. This is one of the first big buildings that I built, a mob spawner. But now that I've learned about the biome trick, I think if I was to build, one block, 2 blocks below the water surface at like 190, 191, I'd be consistently almost in the lukewarm motion. I see it changes a little bit. Yeah, different biome here. But for the most part, you don't have to put a bunch of gravel and drain the water. As we can see, we still get seeds, but we don't get flowers because I guess they're not part of the aquabound expanses biome. Look at all these mobs. Look at all the ones that escaped. You might be thinking, grass makes them spawn. So did I. It doesn't. Again, there's a quest for that. I missed it. The Gateway of the Emerald Grove spawns a bunch of passive mobs. But not before you have to fight like 4 waves of spiders, skeletons, zombies, and some of them have armor. So they're a little challenging, but once you defeat that, you get a ton of all the passive mobs. And I had to actually Google it, but you have to give it a redstone signal. Once you build the ritual, to actually make it work, you got to give it a pulse. It's not too expensive, but again, you need flowers, and they're kind of hard to find. So are slimes, actually. Now I have lots of rice seeds. I guess it's been a minute. Ooh, finally a membrane. I guess it was worth dealing with this nonsense. The pocket storage, tier 3. I think this has like 30 some pages. I believe I got the tier 2 as a quest reward or like a loot drop. And it's pretty cheap to upgrade. Holds a lot of items. You can see we got tons of gravel here. And we got tons of gravel here. The netherite auto hammer and the netherite cobble gen are pretty amazing. It refills so quickly. That's crazy. I didn't know that behaved like that. Have to be careful. Now obviously, we needed gravel to drain this. And yes, it was very tedious. I went through a lot of diamond stick wands, and I actually died. I suffocated myself. My first death. So I'm digging a hole. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We do home when we're taking damage? Nope. What a terrible way to die. I don't know how many hours it took, but I streamed on YouTube for like 6 hours last night. While I was doing that, I had a thought. Why don't I just build the whole thing next time out of cobblestone with a building gadget? Possibly even the copy and paste gadget, but I haven't played enough with that to know exactly how it works, what its limitations are size-wise. But I could do cobblestone and then later do exchanging gadgets to, tidy it up, pretty it up. Which is kind of what I plan on doing here. I'm just using stone because it looks a little nicer than cobblestone, but I don't know what material I want to use yet. But all you do is you make a giant solid cube, and then later you go in with the destruction gadget and do some precision erasing. I think I'll go through a lot less diamond sticks because it can only do a max of 128 blocks, which for that room size was pretty painful. One of the joys of progression-based packs is all your systems quickly go obsolete once you get onto the next tier. So learning what I learned now, my first episode, showing off that, the system in front of me for ore generation and sorting. I think I'm at the gold mesh tier. I should have just waited, because to get to the diamond tier, all you needed was these steel rods. And if you look at the steel recipe, I think you're supposed to go this direction first. Just some coal coke, some iron. It happens pretty quick in the foundry. The foundry is pretty cheap to make. Just, electrum from your silver and gold. Nothing here is too fancy. Direwolf goo. Again, electrum, invar. All of those electrum and invar blends, of course, come from the foundry. The productive metalworks. I guess it's kind of like the new Tinkers, but it doesn't do tools. I believe it's just for alloying. And they give you a little clock that pulses the tap. Turn it off if you don't want to. I got a barrel here, and then right now I'm deciding to make ingots. If I just want to make one of something, I'll use these tables. It's floating because my base, before I actually built the stone circular structure, used to be just wood, dark oak slabs, and it just came out to kind of this area. And I want to move it somewhere, and I think I actually want to make multiples of these. I just don't exactly know where yet, so it's just kind of floating here. I accidentally fall in from time to time. And so do pigs and sheep. Oh yes, this area. So yeah, as for the coal coke, it's pretty easy to just have coal sitting in here, passively cooking away. I've decided to start trashing the creosote oil because I've got, over 64, like 100 and some buckets of creosote oil. I think I even have one of these tanks over there. Nether wart. In terms of going to the nether, this was the big thing I needed. It was kind of my big bottleneck, but we just got some waterlogged strainers up there, dumping into the controller, making, mainly for food is kind of why I decided I should automate these. It's not hooked up to the main system. However, when building it, I discovered something. The storage controller, shift right click to open GUI, you can put range upgrades in. So if we search for functional storage, I was thinking, interesting, what kind of range upgrades? Water gen, sweet. Oh, we can't make that. Obsidian gen, ooh, you can make that, except you can't make the water. So you can't generate obsidian. However, I'm using these copper upgrades already to increase my ore storage capacity. I didn't realize it multiplies the controller radius by 2, by 4, by 6, and with the netherite upgrade by 8. And what's really insane... Ooh, airdrop incoming. What's really insane with the netherite upgrade, of course I can't make it because I need many of these and I don't actually know how vanilla works. So I'm not sure if this is what I have to do, but I'm getting way off topic. I've got a few of these as rewards. Ooh, the airdrop has landed. Wool's always nice. So what do we got here? A player transmitter, I guess RF to the player, that's super huge. More power cells. I've actually collected quite a few of those. It's weird to get aluminum. Ooh, that's crazy. Another one of these. So you can see the loot in this pack is outrageous. Here's a diamond upgrade I was just talking about. A phantom boot. Condenses matter below the feet, creating a path through any terrain, even when no solid ground exists. Well, that is cool. And then copper. I'm really surprised at the variety of loot that I'm getting. It's not boring. It's a lot of different stuff. So that's cool. There's actually a foot slot. I'll have to figure these out later. I'm not exactly sure how these relics work with that little mini game puzzle. There's all these pages and I'm not really sure what it all means. You also might be wondering too, when I hit E on my keyboard, it's actually automatically opening up this. So if we go into the keybinds here and search for inventory, I've actually not bound E to the vanilla Minecraft open inventory. I've unbound it and I've rebound E to open up the curious inventory. And all that does is immediately open this up. And I kind of like that because every once in a while I forget that I have these things and the magnet's annoying me. So the fact that I can see it, I actually prefer it to open up, not be like that. It's like a preference thing. The one weird thing I did know though, is if you do this and you middle click to sort your stuff, it doesn't work. You have to dial it down, which is not bad. A lot of times auto sorting actually causes me problems. Durability 76, repair by dropping it in lava. Let's do it up here. I'm assuming it's going to use the lava, right? Oh, interesting. It's a full repair too. And you get obsidian. I briefly touched on it on my first episode, but apparently it's a vanilla mechanic to take blue packed ice with soul sand and run, what is it, lava through it. It generates basalt. It's a basalt generator. Well, to get packed ice, you gotta, or to get blue ice, you gotta get packed ice, but you gotta get ice. The direwolf goo. The first tier here is pretty cheap. That's why you need the darkroom spawner to get some rotten flesh. Well, I've just recently moved on to the next tier, and then eventually I'll upgrade to the last tier. But I thought this setup was pretty cool. I can hold vein mine, and usually when I have all three of them in the water, get a ton of packed ice, like I guess 12 of them usually, and they automatically, the source water will fix itself. I just have to be careful to not vein mine the stone again. We'll always kind of aim. See, now we're at ice, and if we were to feed this nether wart, it'll turn the dark color, and then we can get packed ice from it. I think I vein mined this rooftop here, the stone, twice now. So fortunately, vein mine only destroys 64 blocks, but when you break a radius like this, that's kind of awkward to refix it. However, I think it was B. We enable B, we're going to find that, oh no, I've updated the pack. We stand here on our little house. If we do a shape list of set origin here, and then we do on the Y, and we do a radius of, was it 23? Interesting. Okay, so there's the radius. Now, can we do an offset? Yes. And then visualization, let's do random. Must have been a radius of 20, 25. Let's set it up one so we can see it. Now that we have our origin set. Okay, so we can see I guesstimated wrong. I think actually the bottom radius is this radius, and then the top radius, I actually subtracted it by 1, just to have a bit of an overhang effect. Yes, I did. And then I put a solid block in all the corners. So it's a pretty cool tool. And then when it came time to build the outer perimeter, I went and I added another circle. Notice the circle has this origin. Go back to my first circle, global origin there, second circle, global origin. There we go. Instead of doing global, we'll just select the second circle, set origin here, go up to so we can see it, and then notice the weird circle is on the x-axis. We want the y. I don't know what I did, if I did 33 or what. I think what I did was I had a radius of, like, you know, to here, a few more, and then obviously I just filled in the circle into a square. So I'm pretty sure this platform is going to end up being bigger. I guess I want to have animal farms up here, probably most of it grass top. Do kind of the, you know, the magic up top, grass roof, farms, and then my actual tech and structures are going to be under the water. I don't know what everybody else is doing, but I really like the idea of actually building down below the escape pod and kind of keeping it central, somehow connecting them. If we go down here, I have a bit of a moon pool, which I thought was pretty cool. Ooh, this is kind of cool to see. My little obsidian generator. It just so happened that the water pipe and the lava pipe that are going to my sieving operations, I can conveniently fit a tempered glass jar with no type of heating required, and it's smart enough to autofill the right amount of, 8,000, 8,000. It doesn't overfill, which is I was concerned about that. And it makes Obsidian. It's very slow, but it's been running for hours, and it's full now, so that's pretty cool. Might as well actually grab a bit of that. I think I was actually starting to talk about this before I got distracted. But it's time for an upgrade. I got to think about it. But all this tech has to get erased. Not erased, redone. Before I got wildly distracted, I was talking about coal coke and iron. So as you can see, it's going to make steel. It happens kind of slow right now with the amount of power issues that I have and, speed upgrades, but there's so much to do in this pack that you kind of just set it, forget it, and come back to it. And once I started making steel, it really upgraded the possibilities to make other things, like the alloy smelter. I guess I had some energetic alloy cooking. Haven't made the infuser yet, and then the integrated dynamic mechanical squeezer drying basin is huge. It's very awesome to get those, pretty easy to get early game. I believe this energy transmitter from Dire Things has a render area. No, it does not. Okay. Thought it did. Well, anyways, it's set to roughly... Oh, it is, right here. It powers this square based on this center, and maybe it uses more power the bigger you make it. That's kind of the goal of this part of the base, is just to kind of lay stuff out, allow me to kind of figure out how I want to place everything. Because it's very hard to build your base, I think, and design. Well, we can turn those off. I'm sure those are going to add a lag. But yeah, the build guide here, you can add all kinds of shapes and stuff, and then, turn them off selectively. Like I could turn this one off visibly, still have this one, turn it off, or just turn them all off. But I guess the configuration doesn't persist. I did a save file thing last time, but I guess it doesn't save to my updated world. So I updated the pack 2 or 3 times, I think, since the last episode. Looking at the quest book here, Chapter 1's been done, I think, for a while. They've made a few changes, like if you lose your comms, I guess you can get it back. Mainly, I was trying to work ahead and do certain things that I couldn't do, and I kept hitting these roadblocks, so I just stopped, and I just followed the quest book. So I followed it all the way down, getting here, which gets you SCUBA upgrade, and the depth upgrade, which is what's done to just the leggings and the PneumaticCraft. There's a whole story in here. It's actually a really good tutorial. I followed it all. Oh, one of the other things I wanted to talk about, a tip that I thought was interesting, is there is a key reference here. And then this caught my eye. Control F. I feel like that is a little secret. So now we have all these objectives. Let's say I want to figure out how to make steel, because I was actually having this issue. If we go to finally steel, I don't know if there's a way it's sorted, but if I click on this one, this is actually what tipped me off. To make steel, I need coal coke and the foundry, because originally I was trying to make, I think it was the alloy smelter or the infuser, and I was stuck on this chapter steel, and I didn't notice that this led into that. Like, there's all these pages, and of course it's the last one. I didn't click on it. I was trying to do this, but again, to make, the immersive blast furnace, you need, I believe it's erased. You have to go right to the reinforced. You can't make the basic one. And then, of course, you need steel. I thought it was like a circular logic thing. And then same with the infuser. For mechanism, you can infuse coal with iron, but again, you need steel to make this block. So I was confused with the circular logic, but it's the alloy, the foundry. So I expect by the next video, I'm going to have torn all this down and kind of redesigned it. And I know somebody had asked in the comments that their drawer controller wasn't working. It's because you actually have to select your drawer, the linking tool. There's all kinds of options. You got to read the instructions, but basically if I click on this drawer, it's going to tell me it can reach only this box. And then I got to actually select everything. It doesn't happen automatically. Like if I come over here and I try to add these drawers, it won't work. But if I want to do work on this system, I got to click on this and it tells me what's working. The green card and have all kinds of options set to it. Right now I'm set to lock, so everything unlocks, everything locks. So as I was saying, I could have done things differently where these were automatically feeding into their own jar and then processing. At the time, yesterday or the day ago, I kind of regretted not doing that, but we're coming full circle, I hope. This is where I left off, was the gold mesh. Well, to make the diamond was the steel, and then that's where I went off on a huge tangent. Well, now that we can do steel, what can steel do? Steel can make a blazing mesh. Now, Ars Nouveau is a little bit of a learning curve if you've never done it. It's not gated in this pack, you just have to do the typical progression, so it's not bad at all. You can make these seeds from the imbuing apparatus, any type of seed, some of these source gems. It's a whole thing. So yeah, I guess I wasn't in a huge concern to make the diamond mesh, even though I had the steel, because I didn't think it mattered. However, this is where I wanted it. I wanted the diamond mesh for the rack, another rack, to get the blazing powder. It's the blazing powder I cooked down in the foundry, and I made the rod. And what the rod allowed me to do was to make brewing stand. So anyways, onto the blazing mesh, which I just unlocked. Check this out. So I went through it all, and I'm pretty sure you can just feed sand with lava and get this right away. Like cooked ingots, processed ingots at whatever their percentages are. I didn't check the percentages, but between doing sand, then of course basalt gets you ancient debris, which is sweet, and dust getting you the redstone, and even gravel getting you a few other ores here. I think you basically get everything. Plus, we're going to start getting black quartz. And notice it's all lava. So I was struggling early game trying to figure out how to get water, or if I would have just manually pushed myself instead of trying to automate too soon, too quickly, I wouldn't have to deal. Now it's a double-edged sword, because even though this system is probably completely obsolete and I'm going to tear it down and redo it, because I can just skip this weird cluster material and go straight to getting ingots. I also probably should have mentioned it too. The tips are me kind of playing blindly, things that stood out to me. They're not necessarily, tips for everybody. I'm coming at this fairly blind. This is kind of the end result. I've just recently unlocked the suit and the ability to go underwater and the depth to 150. I was plugging away at PneumaticCraft up until this iron suit tier, where is it? Just dire things, progressing as far as I can. A lot of stuff is loot rewards. We haven't even touched integrated dynamics intentionally, even though we have a lot of stuff. We haven't unlocked the quest. Immersive engineering. Digital storage. I think now we can go to the depth to actually start finding E02. Maybe that's what I should be thinking about first, actually, breaking into this. General storage. Oh, the backpack. I wanted to mention something too with the backpack. You can have it here, right? You don't have to have it on your chest bar. But also, I keybound it to, I don't know what it is normally, but I do Shift E. So instead of doing, E for inventory, Shift E is the backpack. I quite like that. You just got to be very careful to not do that in a boat when you're in the lava ocean. Last but not least, the pressure chamber. We're at 5 bars and we can hear it hissing away. The real important thing when you're doing PneumaticCraft is the security upgrade. I guess it stops it from blowing up. You can hear that periodic noise. It's pretty ear piercing. I think the quest has you make like 1 flux compressor. I've made, I guess 4 here. I think I made 6 total. However, I don't have enough security upgrades to put them all down. And if they overpressurize, they explode things. A couple months ago in December, I had wrapped up my Project Ozone 2 series, episode 25, and I had made a really cool PneumaticCraft controlled system. It was tied in with the Redstone logic, pressure control. It had like a giant battery buffer of pressure, and it would regulate down. I had it hooked up to my AE2 system where AE2 wouldn't even send crafts to this system if there wasn't enough air to run it. It was very cool. I plan on building that again because this periodic noise of hearing the air get released when it builds up is it's very ear piercing. So I want to do redstone control. I'm just not set up at all to do that. And this chest piece is something I built additionally. You don't need it, I guess, for the question to go underwater. However, these upgrades here, you can give it a charging upgrade where this will have a lot of volume to it, and then it will feed pressure in it to other devices, whether it's my pneumatic wrench or these leggings. So let's, for the time being, just throw this in, and it can draw the pressure down in the system. Very cool. See 20 bars in this pipe, a little regulator here. First time I placed it, I had it on backwards, so it exploded. And then we've dropped the pressure down to here. And then we got this guy. We need to give him water so I can make more of these blue upgrades. Where's security? What's standby? Security upgrade. Obsidian. Sweet, we got lots of that. And this ugly room here is just kind of a bit of a playground. I'm not going to try to focus too much on building really cool stuff and like symmetry and all that. I always get caught up in that, and it's very hard to progress because you're always worried about, you know, base design. You're not really sure how everything's going to tie together. It's kind of a hidden room that I can practice. That's kind of the whole point of the quadrant of this base. Is to just kind of build and figure out how these machines work. Because, what is this, 1.21? It's been a very long time since I've played these newer versions. A lot of the mods are not super familiar to me. Well, that's weird. Have I just discovered a bug? Chest piece and leggings. If I hit E, it automatically reloads everything. Is that because of the Curios hotkey I was talking about a moment ago? Let's turn this off. Let's go back to vanilla. That's kind of annoying, actually. Okay, so the initialation's complete. Push E. You know what? That little Curios tip, that's a bit of a bug. I don't know who to report that to. Speaking of bugs, actually, another weird thing, notice the FTB stuff in the corner here, and these are my hotkeys, like my favorites. I can hotkey this Redstone logic controller that I'm going to talk about shortly. You can hotkey stuff, and then you got this thing. And what's really weird is I don't think it was doing it in previous mod pack versions, but I go here, it's gone. But if I click into any recipe and then back out, it like refreshes and then it reloads properly. The Redstone logic controller. I wanted to make a video about this a while ago. I was playing with it. I just don't have any examples, so I kind of, whoops, gave up on that. As you can see, it's pretty easy to break. It's got really interesting placements. It's a PLC, basically. It's inspired by a real-life programmable logic controller, and it's a mod that actually, we search Redstone here, the Redstone pen. It's got a few different interesting blocks. I'm not going to maybe read about all of them here, but all kinds of cool functionality. A cool little lamp block that lets you know Redstone signal. I think it does hexadecimal, you know, 0 to 9, A to F kind of thing. There's some cool buttons, like a pulse button is very cool. It has the ability to make you draw redstone. I just can't make these yet because I'm missing a feather. I only had one feather to make the original. I plan to use it with the PneumaticCraft stuff. Is kind of where it's going to stand out. So it's got all these different colors, right? It's got white on the top, black on the bottom, plus the 4 cardinal directions for that. The little red dot here tells you if it's running, you know, it's green, or it's not running. I think it's comments here. This is a comment. Lets you just kind of type stuff. And if you break it, fortunately, it has a memory. You can copy stuff to your clipboard, you know, paste it with Control V, Control A. You know, all your typical Windows hotkeys work. It's a pretty slick little unit. We can see our inputs here, the colors I mentioned up and down. So for example, if we were to do a lever plus a couple pieces of redstone on yellow and we ran this thing, we would see that there is nothing here. Let's do G equals yellow. Maybe it needs something to happen. Okay, I guess with nothing in it, it doesn't process the code, which is kind of interesting. What does it cost to make a gauge? Perfect. So we can do something like that. So E hexadecimal, I guess we could see in the tooltip up top, is 14 because we are passing in 14. So you could do something like, you know, stop running it. You could do Y minus, you know, all kinds of math, right? I don't know why I did B. B is undefined, it's 0. I meant to type 3, I think. So it knows Y is 14, minus 3, so G is now B at power 11. So that's alright, right? You know, basic math. Well, what's so special about that? There's a real good story here in hovering over these things. It kind of gets you a bit of a run through, you know, basic arithmetic, tells you the restraints of it, all kinds of, you know, Boolean logic, edge detection. There's some extremely fascinating stuff, and if you actually want to learn how to use this, the best resource is the mod dev's GitHub. He's got extensive tutorials on written up, really easy to follow. There's timers, like extremely useful stuff. Now this is an example from his website here, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to mess it up. But if we put a dropper here, and we put some stone bricks in there, and we're on red, let's stop this and erase. Oh, it was stopped. Green is our kind of debugging thing. It's going to equal whatever red's comparator output is, and .c is detailed in here somewhere. But if we run this, we're going to see that it's 2. We take the item out, it's 0. If r.co is greater than 0, there's going to be 2 values. There's going to be a true, and then there's going to be a false, which, you know, typically in programming, 1 is true, 0 is false, and you can see that if statement in here. There's a function reference, the top page, if x a b, kind of details how that works. Again, the GitHub, where the mod author has tons of examples. I'm trying to rip this from it. I just don't know if I'm doing it right. It's been a while. So this is like a debug screen too. Anytime you make a variable, you do my var equals whatever yellow is. So if we run this now, we know yellow is 14, and we can see my var. So you can do interesting stuff. I think you can only have like 1 page though. You can't have multiple pages, but these things are pretty cheap. You could daisy chain them together. You know, and y, and this works because if y is 0, and y is going to return false. If we turn this off, g is 0. But if it's on, and this thing's empty, it's off. Okay, so that's cool. So now what we want to do, okay, I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. Side quest time. I'm referencing his GitHub example, but if we do time equals clock, capitals is a little easier for me to read. I should have typed that in capitals too. The sensitivity, the case doesn't matter, but just easier to read, right? If we run this, this is the tick time since the world has started. I believe if I close my world and reopen it, it'll start at 0. Apparently, if you let your game run for like 3 years, it would just barely start to cause a problem, like run out of, you know, number space, whatever that terminology is. So yeah, 3 years is fine. So if we do modulus 20, a cool little trick that he details and explains better than I'm going to. It's now showing there's 20 ticks a second. So basically T is counting up to 20, I believe, in a second. Greater than 10, I guess he says, is a period of 1 second. So T is going to equal, I guess it goes to 15 because 15 is basically your true, like in Redstone. 15's max strength. So it just alternates every second, it's changing. If we were to replace this Y with T, or that 1 with T, All right, this isn't very clean, and his examples again are going to be better. Mod author, but we're making a clock. It's kind of pulsing, 0.15 every second. So if we check that the comparator has items in it, because its comparator output is greater than 0, and we've enabled it with a lever, which is the Y, set it to whatever T is. So T seems to be cycling between 0 and 15, basically on and off every second. If we do this, you will see it will spit out items every second as long as the lever is enabled. And if we pull everything out, it stops. It's not clicking all the time, which would be annoying, right? It only fires if there's stuff in it. See, the comparator output is set to 0, and the timer's still ticking away. We put these items in, we can see it's enabled. And sometimes the information in here updates so quickly you don't see it. I believe the mod author actually talks about performance and certain limitations. Like I said, it's really it's a long read through, but if you're interested in this stuff, it is super interesting. There's a lot of really cool little tricks and designs that you can do with this block. So I'm so excited that they added this thing within days of me asking on the GitHub, would you please add this? It is so cool. The Redstone pen mod. Super neat.